Her testimony on the attack in Benghazi has been delayed by over a month. But today, Secretary of State Hillary Clinton went before members of Congress to answer questions. What questions did she answer, and what was the one question the senators did not ask? Ben has the reality check you won't see anywhere else.
The Secretary of State Clinton went before the Senate Foreign Relations Committee to give an account for what happened leading up to and during the attack on the U.S. compound in Benghazi, Libya.
You know, I do feel responsible. I feel responsible for the nearly 70,000 people who work for the State Department. I take it very seriously.
Secretary of State Clinton testified for 90 minutes. Now, we've got to break down that testimony in just 3 minutes. The whole thing came down really, though, to 3 questions. Why did the administration originally blame a YouTube video for the attack?
No. Again, we were misled that there were supposedly protests and then something sprang out of that, an assault sprang out of that. And that was easily ascertained that was not the fact. And the American people could have known that within days, and they didn't know that.
With all due respect, the fact is we had 4 dead Americans. Was it because of a protest, or was it because of guys out for a walk one night who decided they'd go kill some Americans? What difference at this point does it make? It is our job to figure out what happened and do everything we can to prevent it from ever happening again.
As for the second question, why weren't requests for additional security by Ambassador Chris Stevens, one of the 4 Americans killed during the attack, fulfilled? The
specific security requests pertaining to Benghazi, you know, were handled by the security professionals in the department. I didn't see those requests. They didn't come to me. I didn't approve them. I didn't deny them.
And the third question, raised by Kentucky Senator Rand Paul. While Clinton says she takes responsibility, why has no one actually been held responsible?
I'm glad that you're accepting responsibility. I think that ultimately with your leaving, you accept the culpability for the worst tragedy since 9/11. And I really mean that. Had I been president at the time, and I found that you did not read the cables from Benghazi, you did not read the cables from Ambassador Stevens, I would have relieved you of your post. I think it's inexcusable.
What today's testimony means for you is that through all of what was discussed today about Libya, maybe the most important question not asked surrounded this statement by Secretary of State Clinton.
This Pandora's box, if you will, of weapons coming out of these countries in the Middle East and North Africa is the source of one of our biggest threats. There's no doubt that the Algerian terrorists had weapons from Libya. There's no doubt that the Malian remnants of AQIM have weapons from Libya.
The question not asked by senators today, why is the U.S. helping to provide those weapons, either physically or financially? Fact, the U.S. provided funding and encouraged allies to provide weapons to the rebel forces in Libya. Fact, the U.S. provided funding and encouraged allies to provide weapons to rebels in Syria. Fact, the U.S. government did so knowing that the majority of the leadership of those rebel groups are al-Qaeda fighters. And that is Reality Check. Now, we don't want to leave you hanging on that last statement. Earlier, it was last year that we went into detail about how the U.S. went through this process of supporting al-Qaeda in Syria and in Libya. Didn't have time to get into all those details tonight. So if you want to watch those reality checks, we have posted links to those stories on my Facebook page tonight, as well as at the story at fox19.com. You can go back and get all those details there as well.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was not so calm, cool, and collected during that whole thing.
Definitely
it was a lot of testimony,
but it's a lot of testimony. 90 minutes of testimony,
yeah.
And obviously those are kind of the highlights out of a lot of it.
Good stuff.